Good afternoon, Year 10. We're going to now complete our whole class feedback on our most recent assessment, which was the one from the Life and Death unit that you did with me, the last lesson before the Friday. So you need to check your emails if you haven't done so already to pick up your assessment that I have whizzed back to you, because for most of you did it on paper. It would be handy if you could then print off your assessment or copy and paste it, because it's been sent to you as an image, into Word or PowerPoint, and then type over it, so insert text boxes for my comments. When you've done that though, at some point, if you've done it electronically, you need to print it off and put it in your book, because we're still sticking to the Lytchett mantra that your exercise book is the best revision guide that you can have. If I have not replied back to you with your assessment, it's because I haven't got your email address. So I have a whole class email address, but obviously I don't want to send everyone's assessments back for everyone to see. So if you haven't got your assessment, please email me and I can reply with it. So let's start with the first question, which was a question that was asked in the 2018 exam, which was an exam that I was on the Eduqas examiners board for. So I marked this myself and I can remember the feedback that we were given. So the 2018 mark scheme for the question, what is meant by the term evolution, is the process by which living creatures are believed to have developed from less complex forms during the history of the Earth. Now, there is not just a single way to get marks in RE, so you might have a slightly different definition and still have full marks. The mark scheme is always a suggestion. However, if you haven't got full marks, I would suggest doing the following to get full marks. First of all, there has to be 2 points there. And if I look at the definition from the mark scheme, the 2 things that leap out to me are complexity going from less to more complex, and then over time during the history of the Earth. So have a look at your answer. If you don't have full marks, is there one of those that you've got missing? In addition, you can't define a word by using the same word. So you can't say, for example, evolution is when creatures evolve, because if I don't know what evolution means, I don't know what evolve means either. So if you don't have full marks, put me on pause and add at least one even better if. Off you go. We're now going to look at the part B, and this was a question that appeared in the 2019 GCSE exam that both myself and Mrs. McCarthy marked. And our candidates, although we got very good results, were caught out by this question because they were not expecting a part B or C that asked about non-religious ideas. And so the way that we work at Lytchett is that when we spot that our candidates have been caught out by something, which could be in a big end of year, a big end of GCSE formal exam, could be in an in-school assessment or even a homework, we keep testing you on it until you have fixed the hole, if you like, you've fixed the gap. And so that's what we've done. So many of you, when you saw this on the assessment, you will have spotted that, hang on, we did this in class and Mrs. McGee's tweeted this and it's on the YouTube channel, and now I'm being asked again. And I'm doing that deliberately because never again are we going to be caught out by a question like this. So first thing I want you to do, put me on pause, look at how many marks I've given you and read your answer. Off you go. So hopefully you have now read your answer, noted the marks that you have been given, and these are the what went wells. So there were quite a few answers where you made 5 clear points. The way that the examiners mark is they don't really give a point per mark, they give points for the quality of the answer. But I would say if you've got 5 points, they can't, and they're correct obviously, they can't doubt your answer. In reality, 3 well-made points backed up by some evidence and naming a scholar would get you full points. But let's play safe and go for 5 points. That's why when we're teaching you, we often say, give me 5 facts about. Can you give me 5 things about this? It is important though, and I'm slipping into even better ifs now, that you don't include more than 5 things, and some of you did. You're never going to get more than 5 marks, and in addition, you're wasting time that you could use to improve a Part C or a Part D later on. Another what went well was referring to evidence that supports Big Bang Theory, and most commonly that was redshift, and some of you gave a very brief description of what that means. That was really well done. And quite a few of you referred to Stephen Hawking, which again, he is named on the specification, so that was good. So now put me on pause and everybody write at least 1 what went well, up to a maximum of 2. Now that we've done the what went wells, we can move to even better ifs. So first of all, you need to be prepared for these Part A's. You need to have your 5 bits of info for just about everything, not even just about, for everything on the spec. And that includes these smaller things like Big Bang, like evolution. For Hinduism, the Food for Life scheme. Thinking about Peter Singer in Life and Death. The Humanist Make the Better World campaign. Those little bits of the spec that you think, oh, I won't get a question on that. We've learned, yes, you will. So you need to be prepared. And if your answer didn't have 5 bits of information, that's an even better if. Next, it would be great for this kind of question, so Big Bang or evolution, to have evidence to support it. So for evolution, it might be fossils. For Big Bang, redshift that we've already mentioned. It also enables you to get that kind of 5th point. Next, when it comes to some of the scientific theories or ethical theories in this unit in particular, it's good to name the thinker who's associated with it. So for Big Bang, that's Stephen Hawking. So if your answer didn't include his name, that's something to include. And finally, and this seems really obvious, say it's a scientific theory. That's correct. So put me on pause, and if you didn't get 5 out of 5, have a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 2 even better ifs. Off you go. So now we're going to have a look at a student's answer that I really liked. I gave this full marks, and what I like about this is the student, I said she, I'm giving it away who it is, that the student has not written loads. It's not the flashiest of answers, but it's all there. I've given away it's a girl. I'm not going to tell you any more. If the person wants to reveal themselves, they can do that on our Twitter or email or YouTube channel. It's up to them. I'm going to be picky though. Okay, so there's something on here that I'm not completely happy with, and that's here. So they have said that the structure they're going to use is A, B, B, B. And of course we all know, don't we, that the structure you use for a Part B question is 5 sets of A. But I'm being really mean because this candidate does have full marks. And so I'm just going to show you where her knowledge is. So she's told us, first of all, that Big Bang is a scientific theory and that it describes the development of the universe. It might have been better to have phrased that beginning of the universe. She talks about creation of time and space, given us some time scales and talked about redshift and a brief description of what that means. I don't think an examiner can ask for any more than that. It's a really good answer. What I want you to do now is put me on pause and I want you to read that answer through. And in particular, perhaps if you got 5 marks, but you wrote far more than that, have a look at that answer, because sometimes you can do better by writing less, and that saves time for other questions. So put me on pause, have a read and learn. Off you go. Next, we're going to have a look at the part C. So before we do that, I would like you again to put me on pause and read your part C answer. And that way, as I'm talking through the what went wells, even better ifs, you know if it applies to you. So put me on pause, have a read of your answer. So we're going to start with the what went wells, but I do know Year 10 that lots of you were caught out by this question. But let's start with the positive and the what went wells. So first of all, this is a question about religious views. And so you needed to give 2 different religious views. They don't have to be 2 different religions. It can be traditions within a religion. Now, some of you only really gave 1, and so that then becomes a problem. You could attempt to give a Hindu and a Christian view, but that is making life really, really hard for yourself. I'm the teacher and I wouldn't do that. I would give 2 different Christian views. The best answers tended to have a paragraph where they gave a creationist view and a paragraph where they gave a few supporting evolution. So if you were someone that had 2 paragraphs with 2 different Christian views, and perhaps you labelled those views a creationist and then a Christian who believes in evolution or theistic evolution, that was really well done. And if you used the key term theistic evolution, I was super impressed by that. Very good answers, in fact a lot of them really, referred to evidence from Genesis. That tended to happen when you were writing your creationist paragraph, because you were saying that creationists think creation of human life or the origins of human life happened as described in Genesis, and this is what it says. Some of you in addition made some really interesting parallels between the Genesis accounts and evolution, and that was good to see. In addition, some of you used the key terms literal and non-literal reading. That was also really, really pleasing to see. Often the literal reading was linked with creationism and the non-literal reading was linked with evolution. So put me on pause again and give yourself 1, a maximum of 2 what went wells. Now we're going to look at the even better ifs. And for most of you, the even better if is going to be this one, because too many of you told me about the origins of the universe. You didn't tell me. Sorry, my little boy came in then to show me his rocket that he's just made. I think I was saying that you were focused on the origins of the universe, and so you were speaking about things like Big Bang and so on, but you weren't talking about the origins of human life. And this was a question not about how the universe started, but about how human life started. So it was talking about how were Adam and Eve made. Was that exactly as it describes in Genesis, or are you going to have a non-literal reading and bring in evolution? An even better if is having a second paragraph where you do talk about evolution, but you're linking that to religious belief. And that then links with this one all the way down here that I've already mentioned, which is theistic evolution. And in particular, explaining how theistic evolution is different from standard evolution. Standard evolution is a random, blind process. Theistic evolution involves God's planning. God's mind is behind it all. It would also be good to include intelligent design. And as I've already said, there has to be 2 religious views. I've got here an example of a question, or an answer rather, from a student in the class. Again, it's up to them whether they choose to identify themselves. It's quite distinctive handwriting, so you might recognise it. And this is a really, really good Part C answer. They've made great use of our structure, which we're saying is you give your initial answer and you link it with the religious group or community saying it. Being picky, the one thing I would like this student to stop doing is, can you see here how he's got, I've given away it's a boy, I'm rubbish at this, he's almost bullet pointing, so he's doing A, and then he's got a line for B, then a line for B, and then a line for B. When we mark, we have to read that as if it's full sentences, but it would just look better and give an impression that he's a grade 9 candidate if that was a nice flowing paragraph. His second paragraph, so this one here, I think is better. Now, my 45-year-old eyes can barely read this on screen, so you might need to look at this as a PowerPoint and zoom in. But overall, this is really good. As I said, he's used structure, he's given the view of a creationist, and he has labelled that as a creationist view in the first line of the first paragraph. He's then told me at the beginning of the second paragraph that he's giving a view from a more liberal Christian. He's spoken about theistic evolution, and there's some really good explanation that's going on here in particular. This is a really, really good answer. Lytchett students, I have emailed you this PowerPoint so that you can zoom in and have a look at this in more detail. If you didn't get full marks, this might be an answer that you want to look back and view. Since making this lesson as well, I've had some answers emailed to me, and I'm going to share some of those as well if the people who have written them don't mind. So now this is the main task that you are going to do, and because for most of you, you dropped the highest percentage of marks, and in some cases the highest number of marks for your Part C's, this is where we're going to focus for our improvement task. Now, if you scored 1 to 5, you are going to do the first task, which is this one. If you scored 6 to 8, you're going to do this second task. So the people who scored 1 to 5 are basically going to redo the question again. The people who scored 6 to 8 are going to do a slightly different question, but using similar skills. Because it's a Part C, we're going to use this structure here. So your A for answer and back it up 3 times. As you are backing up, I'd like you to use the linking terms that Eduqas love. Now in a Part C, they're probably going to be in addition, moreover, furthermore, in the same manner, because you're building your case, if you like. Okay. I've then given you, if you need it, over here, your paragraph starters. And notice how the beginning of each paragraph echoes the question, which was explain the origins of human life. So your first paragraph is going to begin, a Christian with a literal reading of the Bible would explain the origins of human life, and then complete that answer and back it up 3 times, linking your back it ups with your words here. Okay, then you're going to do a question with a non-literal reading, and again you're going to complete that answer and back it up 3 times. Before you start to write, you're going to set yourself a target at the top, which is to focus on the hinge words. They're the really important words in the question that the question hangs on, really. And so if you're doing this question on human life is going to be the hinge word. Okay, if you're doing origins of universe, they're your hinge words. Obviously, if you were doing the second one, you would change your paragraph starters to the origins of the universe. So I'm now going to give you a maximum of 10 minutes. I'm not going to stand here while I'm sat. I'm not going to sit here doing nothing for 10 minutes. You're going to pause me, but I would like you to complete this. And when you've done it, you can either screenshot it and email it to me, or if it's on a Word document, you can email it to me. So now we're going to run through the part D answer. So the statement in the part D was the world shows evidence of design and that designer is God. So put me on pause again and read through your part D, and then you will know which bits of feedback apply to you. So let's run through the what went wells first. So first of all, I was really pleased to see great use of the ABBCD structure. Remember, A is answer, BB, back it up twice, challenge, and then decide. I was really pleased to see a great number of thinkers and scholars in your answers. One of you, I'm not going to name them, but you know who you are, made a checklist at the bottom of people they wanted to include or viewpoints they wanted to include. That was really good to see. Another person made a checklist of key terms that was similar, that again was really good to see. Really good use of intelligent design, and some of you name checked Michael Behe. That was really good, and some of you were smart enough to link that with William Paley and intelligent design. Really well done. And good use of non-religious views, because in this question, so in the evaluation question for life and death, you have to have non-religious views. And if you don't, they cap your answer at about half marks. So put me on pause and record 1, a maximum of 2 what went wells. Next, we're going to look at the even better ifs. The first even better if was that too many of you wrote about creator and not designer. And again, similar in a way to the issues with the part C, it wasn't a lack of subject knowledge, it was not focusing on the hinge word in the question, which is design and designer. Perhaps designer is God. And so if you spent the whole question saying the world shows evidence of a creator, I couldn't credit that, because you're not answering the question. That is why those linking sentences at the beginning or end of a paragraph where you echo the words in the statement are so important. I'd like to see more of you using those connective terms that we've just spoken about in the part C. Educas love those, and it's a sign that you're stacking up the evidence. So words like moreover, in addition to, in the same manner. Third, give evidence to support what you are saying, whether that's biblical evidence or if it's a scholar or a thinker, what evidence they use. So a few of you spoke about intelligent design, but you didn't speak about the evidence that they would use. So for example, that the structure of the flagellum and how that couldn't, according to intelligent design theorists, be any simpler. Now, it might be that you didn't think that evidence was convincing, but include the evidence and then criticise it. Next, something we've mentioned already, link back to the question at the start or end of each paragraph. So keep saying, this is evidence to support that the world looks like something that is designed, or this supports the idea that there is a designer and that designer is God. This challenges the idea that the world shows evidence of design. It can feel a little clunky, but you're not trying to get some kind of literary prize. You're trying to get as many marks in a GCSE as you can. When you're doing your decide bit at the end, don't just say, I find this convincing, and then move on. That's pointless. Tell me why it's convincing. And when doing so, you might want to use some of our evaluation sentence starters. So when talking about whether things are convincing or not, you might say the argument is effective or ineffective because a key strength or weakness is. This is not convincing because. And then linked with that, your counter arguments need to be supported where possible by some evidence. And again, some nice little phrases you could use when doing counter arguments are things like alternatively. This could be criticised by pointing out. So put me on pause and record your even better ifs. A minimum of 1, a maximum of 2. I do think quite a lot of you are going to have this first one here. Put me on pause, off you go. Now, again, this one here, not going to tell you whose it is, but this is a good example of a paragraph for a part D. Again, you might need to view this on the PowerPoint that I send you because it's quite small on screen, but really good use of the ABBCD structure. This candidate has also referred to Paley and then has criticised Paley by referring to Darwin. I was trying to find it there, but I think Darwin comes in perhaps at the end here. Nice use of the bee orchid when talking about something that could either be designed or show evidence of evolution. Also, nice use of language, so using the word intricate, for example, when talking about William Paley's claim that the universe is so intricate it must have been designed. Good pairing of counter arguments going on here. So this candidate talks about design and talks about William Paley and then challenges that with Darwin, who is there. She also, giving it away again, but I haven't named her, also says why she is convinced by a view because it's supported by scientific evidence. It would have been better if at the beginning and end she would have had a linking sentence, so saying these are views that support the idea that the world shows evidence of design. This supports the idea the designer is God, or the other way round. I'm going to put you on pause. I'm also going to try and quieten my child that is yelling in the background. I'm not going to do anything mean, just ask for a bit of quiet. While I'm doing that, put me on pause and have a read through that answer. Now, this is your final task, which is just as well because I'm not quite sure what's going on in the next room, but it's getting louder and louder. So this is, you're not going to write out a part D because you have worked hard this lesson. You're going to just finish off a part D paragraph. So this is a paragraph that's answering the question, the world shows evidence of design and that designer is God. And you can see that I have given my answer, which is highlighted in yellow here. I've then got my first back it up, which is highlighted in green there. And then my second back it up is highlighted in blue. So I've started by saying that many Christians would agree with this statement and they would say the universe is too complex. I've then backed it up by referring to William Paley. And then I've backed it up further with Paley by addressing the second bit of the statement, So I've dealt with the design, that's all going on here. And then I've dealt with the designer is God, is going on here. What you're going to do now is you're going to add a supported counter argument. So you don't need to write my answer out. I know that, I've written it. You're going to add the counter argument and try and back that up. You might want to use phrases like a counter argument to this is, alternatively, this could be challenged by pointing out. And then, my voice is getting louder to cover up the child. And then you're going to add your evaluation, your decision at the end, because we're using this structure here. And you're going to tell me whether you're convinced by the original views in here, or are you more convinced by the counter argument. And when you do that, you might want to use some of the views or some of the sentence starters from the bottom. So this is not convincing. A key strength or weakness is. This is effective, ineffective, because. So to remind you, read my answer, then add the counter argument that is supported, and use some of these sentence starters, then add your decision. What's more convincing, the main paragraph or the counter argument? When you've done that, screenshot it or do it on Word and send it me, and then you have finished and you've worked hard. So just to remind you, you're sending me two things today, your new part C and then this task from this slide. Thank you very much for working hard and tolerating the noise in the background. Have a lovely evening.